Hi, everyone. This is Rico Figliolini, host of Peachtree Corners Life and publisher of Peachtree Corners Magazine, the host of these podcasts and the sponsor. We have special guests today. Wesleyan Artist Market is coming up soon, and we're going to be doing coverage on that in our next issue, highlighting three different artists that live or work or are around Peachtree Corners. But two today that we're talking to are student artists that have a very different way they do their artwork. And I want to be able to bring them on, and we're going to be talking about some of their artwork, their experiences, and we'll be asking them questions about, who they are, what they like, and what type of artwork they'd like to do as well. So let me bring them on. We have on the top left is Makenna Wazevich, if I'm doing
Hi.
that correctly,
Yes.
and on the bottom is EG Pickering. Hey, EG, glad to have you guys on. Um,
Yes.
so the way that we discussed a little bit, we've done this. I did this last year with two other student artists, and we talk about the individuals. So I'm going to bring on. We're going to do EG first, right? We're going to bring on EG first, and we're going to let her talk about her artwork and why. Tell me the type of artwork you do, and I'm going to try to share some of that if I don't mess it up right now on this podcast. So tell us a bit about what you do and why you chose to exhibit at Wesleyan Artist Market.
Sure. I've been doing art since pretty much for my entire life. So doing art in well into high school seemed a pretty obvious choice for me. I'm in AP art right now. So I joined the artist market just last year for the first time. But it was a really good experience, so I thought I'd try that again. So as for the kind of art that I do, I try to incorporate a few different styles, just because I'm always learning and trying to constantly improve my artwork. So I try to do a little bit of realism. I've tried to do some cartoon kind of stuff, and occasionally I try to um, do some like abstract. So it really kind of depends on what I'm feeling that day.
So some of your artwork is like the coronation that we showed before.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm really proud of that one.
it's a really good piece. If I could remove my logo, it would be even better, I guess. Um, so I really like that piece. I think that was a great, realistic sort of piece like that.
Thank you.
Um, the other piece that we showed before was the koi pond that you did, but you
Yes,
also do a lot of like uh, fantastical type, if you will,
I
right?
do. Yes.
And those are inspired by different things, different pieces of work, I guess. Let me just take that off. Here's another one.
Yeah.
That's
So
a cool
this
one.
one in particular was actually a part of my AP art project. So yeah, I really like that one.
Was that inspired by? Where was that inspired by? Almost feels like
Um,
Harry Potter. Yeah.
Actually, I don't know that it was directly inspired by anything.
Okay.
Um, well, that's not true. It was inspired by oh my gosh, there's a phrase. I cannot believe I've forgotten the phrase that I was inspired by for my own artwork, but it was inspired by a specific phrase. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
I tried to incorporate that um, and try to make it really fantastical and whimsical um, and just happy, you know?
Yeah, and you did a nice job on that. Here's another one that you did as well.
Yeah, yeah, that was
Good piece of. What do you want to say about that one?
yeah, that was last year. Um and this was, when pretty much everything was at home. So I actually
Right.
had a little bit of trouble creating this one at home because mostly I didn't know where I was going with it at first. You should have seen the canvas before I landed on that. But
Now you do everything in Procreate, you said, on your iPad.
most things, yes.
Okay. So when you're doing that type of work, are are you able to change things up fairly quick? I don't know how many people may know Procreate if it's similar to Photoshop or not.
Yeah, that's one of the main benefits of digital art actually is that you can change things really quickly. You can kind of change the size, the color, the value. So if you know anything about like photo editing, um,
Hmm.
that knowledge would be really helpful in digital art. Um,
Okay,
but yeah.
cool. All right, so let's also bring on McKenna. Hold on. Hey, McKenna.
Hey.
Hey, so tell us a little bit as we do this. I'm going to also share some of your artwork as well.
Mhm.
So as I do that, as I start doing that, tell us a little bit about yourself, what type of work you do. You're very different medium. You started out when you were
Mhm.
9 years old sewing. Uh,
Yes.
and it's an interesting because not everyone does this, obviously.
Mhm.
But it's a cool way because it's also three-dimensional. You feel it in your hand, fabrics and all that.
Mhm.
So much more to it as well. So tell us a little bit about that, and I'll bring on some artwork.
Mhm. Like you said, I started when I was 9. So I can't remember like directly what inspired me to start sewing, but I got a sewing machine for Christmas and
Hmm.
I took some lessons and I started, you know, doing it at home more and just kind of creating my own patterns and kind of just going to the fabric store and picking out different things and putting some of this stuff together. I've been doing the artist market for a couple years now. I can't remember exactly how many years, but I started when I was in 5th grade and I really like doing it because it's great exposure for like my business and I've gotten a
Yeah.
lot of customers from it.
So you have a business doing this. You're actually
Yes.
selling artwork that you're
Mhm.
doing. Um,
Yes.
Here's another one that you did that I want to share with people.
Mhm.
You want to tell us a little bit about that one as well?
Yes, so these are my pouches. This is one of them. I have 3 different sizes, and this is actually the large pouch, and that's the small one. I
Okay.
try to make them in all different like patterns and colors so it's kind of versatile for everyone, and that's what I'm looking for when I'm going in the fabric store. And this is my necessities pouch, which is the smallest one.
All right, cool. And I think we have another picture of this is more
Yeah,
like
that's all of my artworks or like different like things that I sell. So I have bookmarks, pouches, pillowcases, scrunchies, all that kind of stuff.
cool. I'm going to take off this one. All right, we'll come back. Great. So I appreciate you ladies sharing the type of work you do. Um, it's interesting going from fabric sewing because you're looking at the outside, but there's also an inside.
Hmm.
This seamstress work
Yeah.
you have to do. You're actually creating a pattern before you do any of that work,
Hmm.
correct?
Yes.
Right. So have you ever thought about doing outfits, skirts, dresses,
I've
tops?
when I did lessons a couple years ago, I feel like shirts and stuff, but it's a lot harder, so I prefer
Yeah.
making like smaller stuff like this. Um,
Okay.
I
All
find
right.
like a lot more people find it more interesting, especially for younger ages.
Gotcha. And you actually go to different places or different home shows, I guess, to
Yeah,
sell
I've
your
been
stuff to?
to a couple different shows. This or in 2021, I did the Wesleyan Artist Market, but it was online, and then
Right.
I did a show at Marist, which is like I want to say it's their holiday tradition show, and
Hmm.
then I did one at Lake Oconee.
Oh, okay, cool. And
Hmm.
people can always find your work online as well. Do you have a,
Yes, I have an Instagram, which is where
okay.
I post pictures sometimes of some of the stuff I made. I do a lot of custom orders for people.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Now getting to EG, the work you do, obviously Procreate and the work. Are you able to translate that? Like, I know that as a publisher, I know that you could probably take your artwork digitally and actually put it on canvas electrically, right? You can put it on posters and stuff. Have you done that, or have you even done what is that? And Slips my mind. NTFs? Have you tried to their crypto art, encrypted artwork?
Oh, NFTs?
NFTs, thank you. I always mess that up. Sorry about
That's
that. Yes,
okay.
NFTs. Because
Um,
that would be like perfect, right? Getting an NFT like that.
I have not tried NFTs yet.
Okay.
Mostly because I don't know much about them.
Yeah.
Um, to be honest, what I have heard about them, isn't the best, so I'm a little
Yeah.
wary of that.
Yeah.
Um, but otherwise, there are a lot of transferable skills for digital art. So, for
Uh-huh.
example, before I was using Procreate, I was using Photoshop, and before Photoshop, I was using some free third-party software, and before that,
Right.
I was using like KidPix when I was 4.
Okay. Ah, okay.
Um,
Sure.
but yeah, they're it just kind of builds up over time. So.
Right. When you do these things, I mean, when you're going to be at the artist market, right, at some point.
Oh
Um,
yes.
so how do you sell the artwork there? Like, I understand how the pillar can be sold there because it's a physical item. So, but how would you sell your artwork?
So I use a third party company
Hmm.
to like print my artwork onto stuff
Okay.
because I can't. I unfortunately don't have the tools at home to
Right.
print my artwork on a cup.
Right.
So I do
So is
have
that
to.
where you so is that where you print your stuff, like on cups, or do you do other
Yes.
types of things?
That's just an example. I am
Okay.
not quite sure yet if I'm gonna offer my artwork on cups, but this year, but I
Okay.
might. So.
Okay. McKenna, which artist or filmmaker or author do you take like inspiration from? Have you do you have any?
There's not like a specific person, but I actually do remember what I like started got my interest in sewing was. So when I was younger, I used to watch Project Runway with my mom, and that's kind of
Okay.
like what like got me into thinking to want to sew.
Okay. And that's
Yeah.
good. I mean, you have your own sewing machine, obviously, right?
Yeah.
All
I do it all from home.
right. Cool. Um, and that's not easy, I got to tell you. I mean, my
Yeah.
mother-in-law used to sew, and she had a sewing machine, old-fashioned, electric, but and
Mhm.
just being seamstress work. My wife's whole family are pattern makers, seamstresses from New York and stuff, and
Yeah.
very they would make these beautiful dresses. In fact, we made her engagement dress from something I designed, but that's like, that'll never
Wow.
happen again. Yeah, that's a long time ago. And it's difficult, so you can imagine.
Yeah.
So you can appreciate that, I think. But
Mhm.
going through that, EG, what about you? Where do you draw your inspiration? Do you have a specific person or artist or artwork that you find inspiration from?
Honestly, I draw my inspiration from a lot of what I see on social media. For example,
Oh, okay.
like Instagram, Pinterest. I know those are kind of like basic sources,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's true. I really do. I like following different artists with different styles. I just think it's so fascinating to me how many styles are out there and
Mm.
um, how artists can incorporate styles of other artists into their own style. So it becomes like a conglomeration of styles, and I think that's so cool.
That is cool. And I also on Instagram and Pinterest follow a lot of different artists. And the great part about that is that they're from all over the world. I mean, and there's another source that Adobe has, which is I think it's called Behance or something like that. It's a portfolio site. Um,
I love that.
yeah, you should look into that if you're into Adobe and stuff because you drew. It's the same thing like Pinterest, actually. They're boards and stuff like that, right? But you're following an artist, and they keep posting. It's almost like blog posts with their artwork. Um, but it's you're right. I mean, you can find inspiration anywhere that way, and it could even be photography. I would imagine that might inspire an illustrative type of work.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you what 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 is you one of your is there any art that you identify most with? If you could pick a piece of art out there, is there any artwork that you would identify with, EG?
Like that
Let's
I've
go with that.
done, or
That's out there or that you've done, whichever one is fine.
Um, I don't have a specific piece of artwork that other people have done
Hmm.
that I identify the most with. But I do have like a genre that I identify a lot with,
Okay.
or just like a kind of feeling that that I identify with is just um, art that has a lot of emotion behind it. I think when you have emotion behind it, it automatically becomes a lot more powerful. And even if you don't know what exactly emotion that artist is communicating,
Hmm.
it's still felt. And actually, um, I learned recently, well, I saw recently um, a project that a previous AP art student had done,
Right.
and I was so drawn to it. It was like very illustrative, pastel colors, and very whimsical and fantastical. So it definitely drew me in because I kind of related to that style of art. Um, but then I found out it had this very like tragic like source of inspiration that they had drawn from, and all of a
Mm.
sudden it all made sense. It was I was really impressed by it. So
I
there's
think artwork that comes with the story, I think makes
yes.
that artwork even more have feeling, right? I think that's why some paintings are worth millions of dollars. Is basically because of the artist and the pain maybe that they felt as they were doing that artwork.
Yeah.
Um, McKenna, as far as do you have an inspiration like that that you draw from? Any favorite place that you work from?
Not really. I kind of sometimes once I start like one pattern or like project and like
Uh-huh.
or product, whatever you want to call it, I usually get ideas for more. So like in the past with my pouches, I've got made different sizes of them, and one
Hmm.
time I even did patchwork. So I did like different fabrics on the outside. So I just
Okay,
kind of like work with it and make different things and make my own inspiration, if that makes sense.
it does. And what types of fabrics do you like working best in?
Cotton is the easiest to work in.
Okay.
I do a lot of flannel, and then when I make my pillowcases, I
Hmm.
those are flannel, and there's like a border around them on like,
Okay.
if that makes sense. And it's
Yeah.
like a minky almost, so it's much softer.
Do you go out? There's fabric places I know. Do you go out and
Hmm.
like look at all the fabric? I mean, there's tons. You can
Yes,
go into one of these
there's
stores. There's
so
thousands
many.
of them. Yeah.
Hmm. I
Do you like
typically
doing
go
that?
to Yes, I typically go to Joann's, and I because they
Joanne's,
always
right?
have good coupons, which helps. Um,
Yes, for sure.
and they have like a wall of all their cotton fabrics and like
Hmm.
all the different colors, and so it's easy to like go in with what you're looking for, but it's also good to like keep an open mindset because there's so many different options.
Sure, I can imagine you could spend hours doing that, just looking at
Yeah.
through all the fabrics, and
Mhm.
even the stuff that you put onto it, right?
Mhm.
The accents that you put onto it or sew onto it, depending on the project.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, does when you so the Joanne's probably the store that you go to versus any other store, I
Mhm.
would imagine. But are there other
Yeah.
stores that you might go to where, you maybe Home Goods or something where you're there and you're noticing stuff and you say, that's cool. I like that. Maybe that's
Mhm.
inspiring. Do you see
Yeah.
that? Do you see yourself doing that when you go shopping? That you're like looking
Yes,
at
I
other
see
things
myself
like
doing
that?
that all the time. Yeah.
All right,
Mhm.
cool. Um, EG, what about, what where there's inspiration that you can find in all sorts of places. I know that you said Instagram, Pinterest, and stuff, and genres, right? Um, I know one of the things that you pointed out, I think, whimsical, you like whimsical artwork and stuff. Anime was one of the areas that, or anime art, which is also varies, right? Because there's a lot of different ways to do that. Are there any specific animes that you enjoy that's inspired you or artists within that realm?
So like you said, anime is a very diverse genre. So I like um, certain kinds of artwork from that
Mhm.
genre, I'll say. Like one that I really really like is Studio Ghibli. Um,
Right.
because I had heard about their movies and their stories and these beautiful beautiful backgrounds that they've used, and so I started watching them. And man, I agree wholeheartedly with those assessments. They're absolutely gorgeous films, but they do follow the anime style. So that's one of my main inspirations.
Cool. They're fantastic movies. It's a shame that what's his name, Miyazaki retired. Actually, he might be coming out to do one more movie, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I heard. So, but
to watch
it's
that.
definitely we have the kids Disney movies and those movies. So Studio Ghibli is a great place.
Yeah.
Um, let's go into a little bit of some other questions as far as you know you're doing artwork. Some people do artwork and like they do sports, right? Some people do sports and they realize they'd love to be in that sport, but that's not where they're going to be. So they're going to study law or something else, like something different, or maybe even physical therapy. So something somewhat related. But people are different, right? But you're getting into art, and you want to stay there, right? I mean, you want to go on to college or a maybe SCAD even to do studies in art. Is that where you want to head to? And where ultimately do you find would you want to find yourself in like 5, 6 years after you get out of school?
That's honestly a great question. I really have found that I really would like to stay in a creative field,
Hmm.
just because I think, um, working on an Excel document, I think,
Mm,
in an office setting, I do understand that that's not an option for a lot of people. Um,
right.
but I realize that there is just as much risk in doing that as following what you really want to do.
Hmm.
I guess in your heart or in your gut. So I do want to do something creative, um, even if I have to go a long way to get there. But yeah, I'm also interested in like photography and writing, so those are
Yeah.
also creative paths that I could end up going down. But yeah,
All right. Cool. Yeah. The world is changing, right? Because used to be before a decade ago, 10 years ago. Um, if you were a graphic designer, pretty much you were a graphic designer. You weren't doing other things. That changed. Obviously, kids in school, even my kids, as they were going through high school, they were taking Photoshop. Actually, in middle school, they were doing even Photoshop. So, right. Um, and HTML and programming, even if you weren't in school doing it. For example, I remember my daughter, she loves, I think it's Horse Isle, which was a horse riding game on World. And you'd have to make your own sort of website within that world. So she learned HTML by herself. She learned how to use Photoshop by herself, different brushes and stuff. I was just impressed one day when I saw her doing it. I was like, where'd you get those brushes? Did you download those? She's like, no, I made those. And I was like, what? Really? So it
that's awesome.
doesn't, yeah. So if you want to do these things and you have that talent, and she's not going that way, she's doing something else, but it was a good fun time for her to be able to do that. McKenna, you're doing work that I know from my experience with my family seamstresses and stuff like that that worked for
Mhm.
large dress companies and design firms, fashion companies. Um, we used to get dresses in the warehouses in New York. Sometimes they'd let us in and we'd go shopping. Uh, but your type of work is a bit different, though, and you can sell that stuff on
Mhm.
Etsy. I mean, you become your own
Mhm.
business easily, just as well as illustration
Yes.
too. So tell me what
Mhm.
you want to do. Where do you want to be when you leave high school? Where do you think you'll be going to? And where do you want to be 6, 7 years from now?
Um, I have a long time since I'm still a freshman, to like kind of decide
Right.
where I want to go and what I want to do. But I've definitely thought about fashion designing or kind of growing my business as maybe
Hmm.
even if it's just on the side. Um, I'm a gymnast, so I've also thought about doing something that relates to sports, so like sports sports medicine or physical therapy, like you said. But
Okay,
yeah.
cool. And there's nothing wrong with having a business on the side. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
that becomes lifestyle money, what's called lifestyle
Hmm.
money, right? Adds to your other income. And who knows?
Hmm.
It may take off and you might end up being full-time doing that.
Yeah.
You never know. Let's go through a
Hmm.
couple of other questions that are not necessarily on the artwork, but sort of hopefully a little bit more revealing of the type of person you may be. So here's one. What superpower, and I've asked these questions of other people sometimes. What superpower would you have and why? And let's start with EG on that one.
I'm gonna be honest. I have thought a lot about this.
Have you? Okay.
I have not been able to come up with a complete answer because, there's a lot of superpowers out there, and choosing
Yeah.
one seems, it's you might choose one and then you're like, I wish I had chosen that one. But I think
Right.
overall one of the best ones out there is flying, and I know that's really that's one of the more popular ones, but it's for a good reason because like being an artist specifically, I could maybe just casually float up like over Atlanta one day and sketch that. Like that'd be fun.
That would be.
You know?
What about you, McKenna? What superpowers, if you could pick
Um,
one, would you have and why?
I don't know. Maybe super strength, but there's not like an exact reason. Like I don't know. It just sounds cool. Just like randomly like lift up a car or something.
All right. Super strength is always good. Um, what? So Um, what wouldn't you do without? Let's start with McKenna, maybe. If there was something that's your favorite thing, I guess, that you wouldn't do without.
Hmm.
It could be
I don't
anything. It could
know.
be time.
That's a
Could
really
be.
hard question.
It is. It's more. It's really like life question, actually.
Hmm.
Um,
I'm not sure.
okay. EG, do you want to step in and say one? Do you have one?
Sure. I mean, I use my iPad and my Apple Pencil pretty much every day. I've actually started bringing them to school because
Okay.
I draw on them every single day. So pretty much my iPad and my Apple Pencil are essential to my life right now.
Cool. McKenna, do you use anything to like sketch or keep like a diary? Do you do any of that as well?
I do a lot of my stuff on paper. All my patterns are made out of either poster board or cardstock, and so
Okay.
I'm able to like draw it out and like take measurements. So I usually write it down in a notebook what the measurements are and stuff, and
All
like
right.
what I want it to look like.
All right. Cool. So the next few questions are just like, the standard Q&As that I drop in towards the end of an interview. What's your favorite food, EG?
Ooh. Um, as far as snack food, that would definitely be popcorn. I make popcorn
Okay.
a lot, so much so that we actually have a popcorn popper, and we have to buy popcorn kernels. But it is really good. It is
All right.
really, really good. So,
McKenna, what about you?
Favorite food is probably any type of Italian food. I love like pasta or pizza.
Okay. What's your favorite book or movie, EG?
ooh,
Or latest book or
not,
movie?
I actually have not ever been able to come up with an answer for this one. But I do really, really like the Marvel movies. I'm a big fan of
Okay.
those.
All right. How about you, McKenna?
Oh, it's so hard. It always changes. Like whenever I watch a new movie, or
Yeah.
I'm not the best at like keeping up and reading with books, but I
Yeah.
just like stick to the ones we have to read for school. Um, but movie,
Yeah, I'm
that's
sure.
it's really hard. But like she said, I also like Marvel movies and like Disney movies.
All right. Do either of you speak a language other than English? Anyone?
Um, I'm trying to learn French. I'm in French classes right now, so
Yeah, I'm same. I'm taking French at school, but I'm definitely not fluent.
Yes, French is not easy. I spoke a little bad Italian, and I decided to take French in high school, which was just a mistake. I should have stuck with an Italian. That would have been an easy A. Um, So let's go for one last thing that I'd like both of you, one at a time. We'll start with EG. Where can people, obviously, Instagram, your Instagram address is below your names, above your heads on this video. But where can people find or follow you? Are there different places, and where can they purchase your artwork? And obviously, you're going to be at Wesleyan Artist Market, so they can visit that too.
Yes. Please come visit me at the Wesleyan Artist Market. I'll have a lot of stuff out. But yes, obviously the Instagram. And then I also have a Redbubble. If you don't know what a Redbubble is, it's basically, again, this service that you can upload your art onto, and you can get that in pretty much everything. So I have uploaded just a few things to Redbubble, but I'm hoping to upload more soon.
Haven't heard of that one. All right. What about you, Makenna? Where can people find out about you and buy your products and stuff?
Definitely through my Instagram, like DM me. My email is also in my bio of my Instagram, like for my business.
Okay.
That's the main place. You can also find me at a boutique at Lake Oconee. It's called the Artisans Village. And I used to be in a boutique in Atlanta, but they recently closed. But yeah.
Cool. So let's bring that over. Cool. So great. The Wesleyan Artist Market is happening in April. We're going to have show notes to this video podcast. Obviously, if you're listening to this on Spotify or iHeartRadio, just Google Wesleyan Artist Market and you'll be able to find out the date and such. But we'll have the link in the show notes on this. Feel free to look for other artists, but certainly E.G. Pickering and Makenna Wazevich. Um, and check them out because they're talented kids. Appreciate your time here with me, Makenna and EG. My name is Rico Figliolini. I want to thank you all for listening in to this podcast.